live. So we're live, guys.
Cool.
Hello, welcome back. Been a little hiatus. Welcome to the Sunday Service podcast here. We only have two of us. We're in a skeleton crew today, but I am joined by the effervescent Hunter. How are you today?
I'm good, man. Effervescent. That's a big word.
I'm not even really
I
sure what
have
it
no
means, but
idea
it
what that
sounded
means.
like a good endorsement.
I feel
It
like I
sounded
should
good.
Google it right now.
And if I said that, no one's gonna fact check me on that. They're just gonna say, "Oh, that's a cool word," like whatever that means, right?
I don't even know if you could have sworn at me just now.
As you guys may notice, again, there's only two of us, and I am in a Hawaiian shirt. Oh, it's not public. Okay, let me change. It's not public. Yeah, okay. I might have to change some of the things real quick here. Give me a sec.
So
Sorry, guys.
it means vivacious and enthusiastic. In case anybody's not wanting to pull out their dictionary,
That's kind of what I thought. I just wanted
effervescent.
to make sure.
Yeah.
It says public on my end here. I don't know why the let me just check one more time here. Edit the privacy. Oh, it says friend. You're right. It's not public. There we go. And now, give me one sec here. And as you guys might notice, my voice pretty raspy. I am. I just had a surgery. A little update on my life here. Why the hiatus? I have a disease of my esophagus. Doesn't swallow correctly. A couple things are going on there. So I had a surgery. It was a high risk, but it was outpatient. So my voice is just gonna be a little raspy. They had to cut some holes in me, pump some gas into me. I'm on liquids only for the next, 4 to 6 weeks. So we'll get through this. Yeah. So anyway, Hunter, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's an exciting day. I'm feeling very effervescent.
Effervescent. Nice. We're gonna
Yeah.
weave that word in as much as we can now.
Right? Just like randomly.
In cogent ways. Okay, so there's obviously quite a bit has happened. If anyone's been watching the news the last 4 weeks that we've been gone, a whole bunch has happened. Supreme Court. I mean, there's just the debates. There's so much information that's been passed on, and I felt like it was a good time, even if we're not completely, back to our full crew yet, just to get a little podcast in, just to get a little refresher. And I think today the topic we sort of decided on was the debates, right? Because we had two debates, three essentially, right, if you count the vice president debates. And I think those are a big part of the election process. I think if anything sways voters, that's one of the higher metrics, right? Like, I don't think people watch the advertisements on YouTube and see that, Donald Trump is a bad person. They don't see that and they're like, yeah, he is. Like, I think they watch him on a debate and they're like, okay, his manner is not what I like, or Joe Biden didn't answer questions the manner I liked, and that sways the votes a little better than most other metrics. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, overall, I would say, honestly, I think there's very few people that are really undecided at this point. But yeah, I think debates at least get you some semblance of an idea of the differences between the two. Except if that first one. The first one, no one found out anything except that Donald Trump is going to interrupt the fuck out of you.
Yeah. The first one was bad. The first one was a dumpster fire. It was not good at all. They made every attempt to interrupt each other, to dodge the questions. And I mean, that goes back to like just the debate format in general. They give you 2 minutes to answer the questions. 2 minutes is not enough time to explain anything, And so it's just enough time to basically deflect the question, give a bullshit answer, and, turn it around. So in the old days, the debates used to be the first person talks for 1 hour straight. The next person talks for an hour and a half straight. And the first person talks again for 30 minutes straight, right? And that way you got the substance details out, like what the content of the person you're talking about, the person presenting the information is giving you. Now it's again 2 minutes, 2-minute clips with 30-second responses. How do you respond to a healthcare question in 30 seconds? It's not possible.
Wait, when did they stop doing that? The long form.
I am not sure.
When did that
honestly.
stop? Did it stop when TV started?
I would imagine something like that. Yeah. Let me look into this. We'll pull this up. The awesome part about having the internet, guys, is we can just look it up, right? When did debates go to 2-minute responses. All right. There's an article from CNN. I don't know if I trust CNN, but let's see. So according to CNN, here I'll switch the feed just so you guys can read it too. According to CNN, I guess in 1980.
Oh, so it took a while.
No, this one doesn't really go over much of that, but it does not say.
I'm
Yeah,
super curious.
I'd have to do some actual research on that. I'm not entirely sure what the when that switched.
I'll
but
bet
I know
you that right around the time they started really getting TV, like
I bet it was
down.
on TV or internet time, right? My
and then it
source
became
was
a production.
NPR, and I trust NPR whether you do or not. So
Yeah.
NPR to me is one of the better sources. So that was NPR radio that informed me of that. So anyway, the debates, right? If you're an undecided voter, first of all, there are no undecided voters this debate or this election. But
Very few.
if you are an undecided voter, the debates are really one of the only ways to sway you. So, like, the first debate, do you think that changed anyone's mind on either candidate?
You know, if I were to guess, it may have taken some people that were like, I'm not sure, and they might have said, not gonna vote for Trump. That guy's crazy. That's what I think. I think that maybe most people are already made up their mind. There's a lot of people that have seen Trump and said, okay, that's just kind of who he is, but the policies make up for that. There's people that have already obviously decided he's a racist, sexist, terrible human being. And then the few people that are in the middle probably saw that, and I definitely don't think that they liked what they saw from Trump. I don't think they liked what they saw from Biden necessarily, but I'm guessing that a lot of people saw what they saw Trump and were like, I definitely don't like that, like way more.
All right, I just pulled up the from 538, which again to me is one of the better sources there is, probably actually the best source in my opinion. How much traction Trump and Biden gained before and after the debate, right? And so according to them, how likely you to vote before the debate for Biden was he was about 5 points ahead. After the first debate, it was about 5.2 points ahead. So Biden gained a slight edge after that first debate. So that kind of agrees with what you're saying there. And then, but on the contrary, well, actually, like the same thing. How likely do you think each is to win? Biden's numbers creeped up a little bit. Trump's numbers slipped a little bit. I'll switch my feed here. Show you what I'm looking at here. Right. This was before and after, and this was how likely do you think each is to win before and after. So, I do think that like I said, Biden probably got the better of the debate. But honestly, I wasn't really like satisfied with Biden's debate. I think he did the same thing that Trump kind of did. He didn't answer the questions. He had like non-answers, right? Like Trump just absolutely didn't answer the questions. He just avoided them mostly. But like Biden didn't really do a better job about answering the questions. He did a couple, like with the healthcare, when he was asked about healthcare, his plan, a little more detail than Trump gave. Like Trump just avoided the question completely. But I don't know, man. Like it's a weird year, so.
Yeah, so I feel like the first debate was just awful. And then, honestly, so like the vice presidential debate, I felt like that one was pretty cordial. What'd you think?
I mean, the first thing like Kamala Harris said was like, I'm speaking, right? Like,
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
And like it wasn't like they weren't cordial at all. And like I don't know why she did that. I get like slight interruption, but like she didn't have to like pause her whole point to make a big deal about it, you know? Like she's a senator. She's used to being interrupted, and like that's just the way senators are. They interrupt each other all the time. So I don't know, like I thought the vice president debate was pointless because no one's voting for Mike Pence, right?
Sorry.
Kids being crazy.
Yeah, my wife just got home, so I
for
went
those who
into
didn't
a
know-
room.
Yeah, for those who didn't know, Hunter had a hangover-like night yesterday. He was a party animal. And so,
Oh yeah, in my living room too.
according to Gronk,
So.
a man at night, a man in the morning, right? And so, again, this will be a short-form podcast just to kind of touch up a little bit. We'll just hit the hot topics just real slightly, but if you're an undecided voter and you watch the debates, I mean, I don't know like if the debates did a decent job of changing your mind. They should have. They should be one of the more prevalent metrics used to change your mind, but I don't think anyone did. And I don't think I would if I was an undecided voter. I wouldn't change my mind based on
I
the
feel
debates.
like maybe the third debate might have done some stuff. Honestly, I mean, compared to other debates, I feel like the third debate went well. Went well. If you
You think so?
compare it to the dumpster fire, I mean, yeah, that was the general sense I got was they at least got a chance to put their views out there, right? They didn't keep Trump. You could see him hating it, but he shut his mouth for a little bit, and then when he answered questions and the moderator. I just want to give a ton of credit for the moderator for the third debate. She did a great job. She was
You think so?
fair. She asked hard questions, and she's the first person that's ever done it, where she asked real questions to Joe Biden instead of asking what color of ice cream he
Yeah,
likes.
right. Like
You know what I
Donald
mean?
Trump, how will you fix the world? Joe Biden, your tie looks nice. Like
Yeah, that's exactly the feel of, and she is a liberal, and she still did the best job of any of them, in my opinion, because you find out a lot. You find out that uh, Trump has like wants troops home. He wants energy to be basically the same as it is. You know, you found out a little bit more about what he plans for healthcare, which is to repeal Obamacare and then put something else in place that he says will be much better. You don't find out much details about it, but you find out that he says he's going to protect people with pre-existing conditions. You find out that Biden is going to allow fracking and all of that in the short term, but wants to phase it out. So you actually hear at least a little bit of the substance of what they are trying to do and what they believe, as opposed to them just screaming at each other. But part of it, they did that with the China and the "you're corrupt, no, you're corrupt" shit.
yeah, the back and forth. The China thing is crazy to me because like we've used China as a tool across the board all elections. Like we've relied on them as a like their economy's huge. We're in a global world, no matter what you think about it, and
Hmm.
like it's China is part of it. And so this idea that we can just avoid China and the person who uses China in any way is the loser candidate. Like get out of here with that. It's perfectly
Right,
viable for a billionaire candidate to invest in China. There's like to me morally, ethically, there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe as president, when you have the emoluments clause and whatever else, there might be some grounds there. But the reality is, like to me, I just see no problem with putting money into China because they're just like a huge global power. Like, what are you supposed to do?
right,
Just avoid them? Like, and then same with Hunter Biden. Like, I don't mind that Hunter Biden, like, even like the Ukraine thing, he got a job. I mean, I do care again if there was cronyism and like favoritism being played by the state that allowed him to get the job. That's all different. But like the idea that like he can get a job in Ukraine, like I don't care. I don't really like the Ukraine is another country in a global economy. I just don't. That doesn't ring the bell for me.
you see, so that's something I don't get though. I never understand this part. How do people not have a problem with a crackhead who got kicked out of the military being able to go overseas and get a job for or millions
A
of
lot of money.
dollars a
A lot
year?
of money.
A ton of money
A lot of
with
money.
no qualifications. What's your qualification? Oh, my last name's Biden. And no one has a problem with that on the Democratic side? That makes no sense to me. That's a huge problem
I mean,
that we
it's
have.
clearly
That's not even just nepotism. And you can't tell me that they didn't have any influence on Joe Biden through Hunter Biden. If he's there and they're sending emails saying whatever they said about like we're gonna give 10% to the big guy, thank you. I'm so glad you're giving me an opportunity to meet your dad, shit like that. They're saying all that, and I mean, no campaign has come out and said that's not true. No one said that wasn't Hunter Biden's laptop. The FBI or CIA or whoever it is has that laptop in custody at this point, and no one's saying it's not real.
well.
So
Let's
if
go
that's
back to
all
the
true,
let's go back to the Ukraine thing first, right? Like the
right,
Ukraine thing. There's no way he gets that job without Joe Biden being vice president, right? Or
right,
at least a senator. I mean, like
right,
I don't see that avenue happening. That just doesn't happen in my opinion. I literally don't
right,
see his qualifications getting him aboard on a board position in Burisma or whatever without Joe Biden being the powerful guy he was, right? So like that
right.
just screams like corruption, right? Like now,
Yeah,
I will say though, like I don't. How do I say it? Like is it corruption or is that just the way it is? Is it just like what's the difference between a father who went to Yale getting his son into Yale because he's a donor to Yale than that, or a job interview based on who your dad is. Like, what's the difference? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
everyone in the world does that anyway, right? Isn't that kind of how the world works?
I mean, somewhat, but I feel like when it comes to politics in foreign countries, then it creates special interests in other countries instead of America. So, like, if you're getting a job based on your father's name because he's in politics, I feel like it's different than getting a job because your dad runs that Wendy's, so you get to be a manager at Wendy's.
Yes,
It's
that does make
totally,
sense. But if you look at the overall picture, like I said, the Democrats did a pretty good job avoiding that, right? They didn't really address it; they just kind of avoided it, and it just kind of went away, right? They were just like, yeah, we
well,
just won't mention it, and it'll just go away, and it kind of
it
did,
went away to some people. Some
you
people
know.
like me, we're digging our heels in hard on that issue.
Do you know? I think this is a prediction. Do you know? I think that they don't care about it as much because they're doing like a quid pro quo with Trump. Like Trump's emolument clause violations should have been his reason for impeachment. It should not have been his Ukraine thing. It should not have been whatever reasons whatever reasons they cited. You know, it should have been his violations not relinquishing his assets to a third party at all in any context, allowing his
Uh-huh.
family to work in the White House, and then also allowing military jets to land in his places, fuel those kind of things, having investments in the global economy while being president. Like those things are dangerous to me. Ivanka making all this money, that should have been his impeachment. Instead, it was some like loose Ukraine nonsense, right? And so I think they are letting that go, and then the Republicans are sort of letting the Hunter Biden thing go a little bit. You know what I mean? Like they're just like not gonna. They just know like that's the
We're
price of
all, it's basically
politics.
like we're all corrupt together.
Yeah,
So
they know
let's not go here. Yeah.
exactly. That's what it feels like to me, and so it's kind of disgusting. Like I don't know what we do about it. How do you change a system that's that fundamentally flawed to where legitimate things get like I guess they did an investigation of Hunter Biden. They say, right? Have you seen the investigation into that?
Well, I think that the investigation is
Pull it up
done
here.
by the same people that would clear him and say nothing wrong happened, you know? They're the same people. So, like, it's like when experts tell you something. It's like, why are you an expert? Well, because we have the job. And it's like, okay, so we just have to take your word for it just because you say nothing
Right.
wrong happened. Nothing wrong happened. I think that you say nothing wrong happened. That's
Let's find a
fine.
good source here. The
Yeah.
first one was New York Times, but that one is not great. The one I have that's a .gov, the Senate.gov, way too long for
Uh-huh.
me to pull over here. It's just, I mean, I'll show it to you guys here, just in the interest of being intellectually honest here. Here's the actual report. Again, here's the link. It was hsgac.senate.gov slash bunch of stuff. But yeah, there's a whole list of things. We're not going to go over all that because that's just too much. But let's go to a different source that's not quite as empirical or as unbiased, but is also still a good source. We'll try the New York Times. Again, not my favorite source. I wouldn't pick them under most circumstances, but I think here
Let's
they do
pick
it decent.
let's pick Fox News then.
Yeah, yeah, Fox News, right? Yeah, let's go with CNN.
It's the
Fox
same
News.
difference.
Let's see what Fox News says here.
Fox News says Biden is a monster who's taking money from foreign governments.
This one mentions the Hunter Biden emails. This one doesn't really go over the. Let's see. Washington Post says nothing was there. Let's see. Guardian. Who cares? Let's go to NPR. NPR is a good one. They're one of the more unbiased ones. Policy. Okay. Honestly, I'm not going to go spend too much time on this one because it's again the more it seems like the more unbiased and the more empirical they are, it really gets like hard to read.
And
Hard
it
to
gets
water down.
boring.
Yeah, very
Hard to
boring.
listen
So
to.
we're gonna skip on that. We're gonna avoid that for now. But the moral of the story for me is like the government is super corrupt, and it's not. I have a hard time blaming. How do I blame Joe Biden for Hunter Biden's nonsense? I don't know.
Right,
It's hard for me to make that stretch. It's a leap to me.
right. And I do think that's the difference is was Hunter Biden doing this or was Hunter Biden doing this because they knew they'd get influence over Joe Biden, and then he goes overseas and fires the attorney general for Ukraine because he's investigating Hunter Biden's company at Burisma. So he fires him, and of course that was totally U.S. policy and all that, and he was just following through on that. But does he influence that policy? And does it kind of,
that
is it
brings up a
just
good point.
happenstance?
When you say that's U.S. policy, that's something that Joe Biden has benefited from, right?
Right.
And here's why Joe Biden feels clean to some people. To me, I don't think he is, but like, here's why he feels clean. Because everything he does gets some sort of partisan support. It's through legal channels. Nothing is unusual about it, right? Let's go back to the crime bill. It's a good example. The crime bill was passed by both sides, basically, right? Like, no one had an issue with the crime bill. In fact, at the time, even like the black community leaders didn't really have a problem with the crime bill. They didn't see a huge issue with it. And so I have a hard time holding Joe Biden's feet to the fire on that because like it was so universally accepted. Like it wasn't just Joe Biden. I mean, he wrote and sponsored the bill, but I don't know if he foresaw exactly what it would do. Maybe he knew. Maybe he knew somewhat. But
I doubt that. I don't think he had ill intent.
I don't think he did either. And I don't think
No.
like you can't just blame him. A bunch of other senators passed it and the president signed it. And no black leaders at the time stood up really and said it was a problem, or no civil rights movements were started as the crime bill was signed. It turned into a monster, but like, how do you blame Joe Biden for that? And so the other thing is with this firing the prosecutor in the investigation into Burisma, having the prosecutor fired. How do you blame him for that when like he used all the proper channels? He did it the right way. You can't trace any like actual corruption to him. It just smells like corruption, right?
It's true. You can't like say directly Joe Biden did anything. There's just a lot of happenstance around it, and the idea that he didn't know about his son's business dealings at all is unbelievable. I think hey Dad, how are you? I'm working in Ukraine at Burisma. Oh, I don't hear you. Maybe he can't hear. He might be deaf. That's possible. He might have forgot right after the phone call. So.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. At Joe Biden's age, the doctor's like, who's your next of kin when you do this procedure? Yeah, it's my son, Hunter Biden. Where's he at? Where's his address? I don't know. Yeah, whatever. Dude.
I don't know.
Like, clearly,
who are you?
And that's sort of the same thing Trump does, right? Like Trump's answer is always, I don't know, deflect. But Trump's to me is a little more nefarious because we don't know if it's doing the right channels or not because it's so secretive. He doesn't release the taxes. He's not releasing. He releases as little as possible, right? So we just don't know. Everything he has is secret. Secret account in China. He has the secret taxes, this secret audit that's been going on for 5 years. Apparently, audits take 5 years. They don't, but
Yeah.
So we have no idea. So at the same time, I can't even say like Trump is corrupt because I don't know. I just have no clue. I don't know if he's corrupt or not.
We have no evidence. That's the thing. I think the truth is, one, they're both too fucking old. They need to. We should not. People might not like to hear this. Old people, especially if you're over 70, should not be running our country. It's just ridiculous. And also, they're all fucking corrupt. They're all doing it. All of them. Even if we don't know, we can all smell it, right? We can all see when we watch stuff that there's stuff that's not lining up there, And then, but how do you do anything about it, Back in the day, you could like have a fight or whatever, but now if you have a fight, it's nuclear war, and that's obviously, or if you like try to have a revolution or start a protest, they have drones, so you're not gonna be able to win a protest
you're not
anymore.
Doing that. Yeah, like they'll know you did it before you did it, because they're watching the texts, watching your emails, and monitoring everything you do, right? And so, again, like I said, your point is well taken for me. People don't want to hear that we're really quick to say young people don't have responsibilities in this country. Like if you're below the age of 18, we don't trust you with anything. Like that's just we're quick to do that. We understand why. That makes perfect sense. Your brain's not developed yet. You're not, even though you're the most flexible you'll ever be. But we have a really poor job of admitting the other end of that spectrum in this country, that people that are, above a certain age are sometimes too out of touch for certain things, right? Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't want someone who's over 75 years old, like whatever Biden is, 78, setting policy on internet. Like how does he know anything about internet? I bet you he doesn't
He
even know the difference
doesn't.
between a Wi-Fi and a router, you know?
Right? Probably not.
And so like why would you want someone like that having policy? Now again, if you can establish that you're a 78-year-old like IT guru, that's different. But the idea that we allow a 78-year-old to just have blanket control over the entire country and then appoint people as he sees fit over these agencies, like Trump has done with oil lobbyists to the head of the EPA and stuff. Like that's a bad situation there. Not only is the
Right.
president themselves not qualified to run most of these sectors, the people they choose clearly aren't qualified to run these sectors. And so,
Right.
I don't
It's
know, man.
hard. It's hard as like being where we are. It's like that we know that there's probably a better way to do things, but we don't get choices. We get two choices and they're both bad. We
I
get
would
two
ask people,
options.
anyone listening, let me make sure there's no questions because I know I said I would answer questions live. Let me just check if there's any questions here real quick.
I love when there's questions.
Let's see. No questions so far. Brian checking in a bunch though. If you have a question, Brian, let me know. I'll stick it in. You get a VIP slot, no question. But so I would ask people, anyone listening, I want to ask you like an honest question, like what kind of voting system do you want? Do you want a fair, balanced, and just one, or do you want one that's as open as possible? Because like I don't think they overlap, right? Like you could open the voting to anyone you want, and that would be technically the most what is it equality supposedly. But what do you want? What do you actually want? Do you want a good product from that vote? Do you want good, sound minds voting? Like what's the goal of voting? Is it to get the best elected officials, or is it just to get the most people to vote? Because I mean, like those aren't diametric, but they're not the same thing, right?
Yeah, I've had this conversation, and it's hard to. Everyone says get out and vote. I'm like, only if you know what the fuck you're doing. Don't go
Yeah,
out
like
there and just vote based on nothing. You know what I mean? Vote because you know something. You don't have to
well,
know
I think
everything.
at some layer we just need people to vote, right? We need you to vote because like we need the voter turnout to be higher than it normally is. Like just needs to be stepped up in general, and that's a problem just with voting in general. But we also need the vote itself to be a quality vote, right? Like you can't just be marking down the ballot
Right.
like a test, or just
Right. We need
seeing the
people to
R
actually.
and just
We
hitting
need
the
people
R.
to take an interest. That's what it is.
Yeah.
We need people to take an interest.
For example, we have
If
a local guy here in Great Falls, Ed Buttrey, right? He's a Republican, and I don't normally vote for Republicans. This guy's great. I would vote for him every time if I had a chance. He's wonderful. And same goes with like a lot of local politicians, right? You look at the R or the D, that doesn't really tell you a lot about them in some cases, but that's kind of how people vote is. So, like I said, we do need voter turnout to be higher, but you also need to understand that like we need a quality vote because if you want the parties to keep falling to the hands of 78-year-old old people, who are possibly racist, even if they don't know it, I don't think that Joe
most
Biden
likely
or Donald
racist.
Trump are intentionally racist. I think they're both idiotically racist. Like when Trump tweets that white power video, I think that he didn't think much of it. Like he wasn't really
Yeah.
thinking about it. He didn't look at the video very much. Like it just happened to be some guy saying white power in the video. Still makes
Right.
you racist, bro. And then Joe Biden,
Yeah.
when Joe Biden says something subtly like, if you ain't black or if you can't vote,
Uh,
choose between me or Trump, you ain't black. Subtle,
yeah.
but it's racist. Like you can't get away
Yeah.
from that.
It's super demeaning almost, right? Like, oh, you think because of the color of my skin I'm going to do this? I think Charlemagne called him out on that pretty hard
I think
too.
he did too. Yeah, I think he did. And I
Yeah.
also, what was the other comment?
I
He
get
said
really
something
offended
about-
when I hear it. So,
It's crazy.
I
It's
can
a
only
crazy comment.
imagine.
And he's
Yeah.
made more than that. He said poor people or poor kids should have just as many opportunities as white kids. Basically
Yeah,
saying that minorities are poor.
Right.
Like that's a subliminal thing in his mind. And so, like I said, like, to me, like the big example is that white power video that Trump tweeted. Like I can't get over that.
Yeah.
Like, that's overt racism in a video. The president has no place tweeting that video. That's like to me
Right.
almost impeachable. if you ask me.
I mean,
But,
he should definitely be screening his video. But if you think of him as a private citizen, I think that's part of the problem. He still thinks of himself, at least in part, as a private citizen. So when he's on Twitter, I know that. He doesn't, I don't think. And so he thinks it's his Twitter account. He can post whatever he wants, freedom of speech, right? And it's not a big deal. But there's like millions of people watching it, and so it becomes a big deal. If I post that video, I probably get a few comments, and I'm like, oh, whoops, my bad. And then it's over. Like, I didn't hear that. Sorry, deleting the video. But he can't do that because now he's got like millions of people, and he can't admit he's wrong and all that stuff.
Yeah, Brian brings up a good point. Like, I'm used to being told that I'm not black enough. That actually is, the more I think about it, like, that's normal for me. Because, like, I've always been sort of like, I feel like I'm, not to, like, hope I don't scare anyone away, like, house Negro. That's how I feel, right, in my life. And seriously, because, like, I'm half black, half white. And so already, I'm already like halfway away from being black, you know? And so, like, some black people just don't take me seriously on that clause. And then I'm also grew up in Montana. You know, I didn't grow up in a majority black community. You know, I had a good relationship with my black family growing up, but it wasn't like, you know, like I said, I'm just kind of in Montana. I'm a half black guy in Montana.
But isn't that weird that you can be considered not black enough and stuff? It's just weird in my mind that we like draw these lines and like you're almost ostracized based on not having a certain view set. And then you're considered a different skin color almost, like, or like some kind of weird middle thing. I just hate that. I hate all of that so much.
It's kind of the way it is, though, right? Like, you're not really escaping that. And the black community is pretty racist in some cases. I've seen racism against myself from other black people. Like, there's a light skin, dark skin dynamic that's racist. Black people have these really strange. The black community has a very strange opinion on. To me, strange. I would say, in my opinion, strange. On like homosexuality, LGBTQ, you know, transgender rights, those kind of things. Like, you'd be surprised at some of the vitriol and some of the just the responses you get from the black community on these topics, right? In some cases, they're more conservative than even Republicans, like white Republicans.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, certain parts of the black community, I'm sure, are.
It's always been weird, you know.
Because everyone's
like
diverse.
The house slave, right? Like the guy who I have it kind of good because, like, you know, I'm half white, but like I've never fully been immersed in like a black community, so I don't know much about like police brutality in a sense. Like, I've had police treat me unfairly, I believe, to my knowledge. I mean, in my opinion, I have, but like I'm sure it's nowhere near as bad as like, you know, Eric Garner or these, you know, other cases where people get profiled, killed, choked, you know, beat up, shot, just because of their skin color. So,
right.
I don't know. It's always been a weird one, but so it's hard for me to hold racism against Joe Biden for that subliminal thing when he says something like poor people have the opportunities of white people. Like, I know what he means. You know, I know what he's getting at. He's not wrong. Minorities typically have lower income than white people in some cases, except for I think the Asian community breaks that.
Yeah.
But still, you know, like, how do we end up with this, man? Joe Biden.
Oh, man.
And I don't want anyone to think I'm defending him either, because I'm not defending Joe Biden. I'll never vote for a candidate like Joe Biden. I have a lot of Democratic friends that say I need to vote for him. That's not going to happen. I will vote for the Green. I mean, I will vote for a lot of people before Joe Biden. I will not vote before I vote for Joe Biden. And I mean, so that's how I feel about Joe Biden. People think I'm liberal, and I am more liberal than people in Montana apparently. But I'm not, compared to the world, I'm not liberal, you know.
No, a lot of this stuff that goes on in like California and Portland and stuff like that, I think that's, to us growing up in Montana, I feel like it comes off even more like crazy, I guess, you know? Like, it's just it's too far. You don't want to, you got to stay somewhere near the middle, right? You can't just go out there and just go crazy in the streets and burn buildings. You're not helping anything if you're doing that. Anyone burning buildings to help people, you're not actually helping people. You're just burning down buildings of people that are probably small business owners.
Is that,
you know? Is
that a liberal problem, or is that more a city problem?
That's a good question. I think probably,
No one's doing it in Missoula.
Right. It's like the really big liberal cities, though.
Yeah.
So it might be a combination.
And I mean,
Like
big cities are liberal,
it's not
right?
Texas. It's not no, because there's huge cities in like Salt Lake's really big, and we don't have that big a problem with it. Colorado, Denver is big, not that much of an issue there. Texas, there's a few big places in Texas, no issue. There's places in Florida that are huge, Miami, Orlando. It's these big, big liberal cities, San Fran, Portland. Um,
New York, L.A.,
right.
those big
This is
cities.
but then there's a few weird liberal places that aren't as big too, like in Wisconsin and stuff, right? They have like these right and but of course I think part of that's because where the shooting of what's his name?
Yeah, I think you have
Jay.
those hubs where the
Yeah.
shootings happen, like St. Louis or not St. Louis, but Minneapolis or Minnesota in general. Wherever they keep having a bunch of shootings in somewhere in Minnesota, right? Is it Minneapolis?
Yeah.
Is it Minneapolis?
No,
Maybe?
it was that little town on the border. Gosh, man, why don't I remember this?
And then you also have like the Aurora, Aurora, the same ones with the movie theater shooting. They're the ones
Uh-huh.
who snuffed out what's its face, the black kid that was walking home, and they put ketamine in his system and killed him.
Oh yeah, you told me about that one. I remember that. That was
What
a
was his name? Can't remember his name.
freaking bad.
Anyway, same police department. So it seems like the problematic police departments are kind of they're like the same ones. You don't see like that stuff happening in various police departments. It kind of has an overlap there, but I don't know, man. It's wild. Some solutions I would have. Like I said, we get stuck in our ways, and I think people lose their radical thinking, the innovative thinking that built the country. How would you feel about splitting up California into multiple states?
I mean, I think Northern California and Southern California would make sense.
I mean, even like between Southern California and like L.A. area, like you could split like up like the lower part of California into like an even smaller section, and then put like you could put like 3-4 states in California. That wouldn't be a problem
Right.
at all, would it? Like,
And I do think it might split up some of the voting and stuff like that. Because, I mean, you win California, you win half the country right
and no
now.
one campaigns there. No one does
Yeah.
because there's no need to. Same with Texas. Same with New York. No one campaigns in New York because they know who's going to win New York. They know who's going to win
Right.
Alabama. No one campaigns in Alabama.
Right.
Missouri. Their states aren't even up for debate. They only
It's
campaign in the
super.
background states.
It's super unfortunate that that's the way it is. Because then they just have these few places. That's why maybe, so like, I guess, yeah, if you split up California into a bunch of places, you might have a little bit more reason to go there because certain parts of California might be more up for grabs, and there could be a lot of votes in that state. So yeah, I think that would be a cool idea. What do you think?
I would love the idea of splitting California up. Like California on its own is like the seventh biggest economy in the world or something like that. Don't quote me on the exact number, but like if you took California and just took it away and split it off the country, it'd be a country that's like one of the top 10 countries in the world. Like California
Yeah,
alone is ridiculous. And then you look at California as a whole, and it's so big. You have like super liberal big city policies that might be necessary in places like LA being applied to places like northern, like way northern California that just don't make sense. You know,
right.
it's the same argument you'd have with federal government versus state government. I would never want Trump telling me how to regulate my healthcare in Montana because my healthcare in Montana is not the same as healthcare in New York or police especially. I do not want Trump's policies or any president's policies influencing police forces, federal or state, in my state because I don't want the police in Montana training the same as the police in New York City. I don't want them to have the same equipment. I don't want them to have anything remotely similar because they're not even close. Their jobs are vastly different. You know what I mean?
So you're saying you might not need tanks in Montana? I mean,
Wow, that's what a hot take that is. Like, what a
wow,
low-hanging
you're
fruit.
getting kind of radical here, Lloyd.
Yeah,
Don't take away our
don't need a SWAT
tanks.
team.
Yeah,
Crazy.
the South Park special, by the way, the coronavirus special.
For who?
South Park. You know
I
South
have
Park,
not
right?
seen it yet. No, everyone keeps telling me
Oh
to
man,
watch it. I haven't
it's
watched it yet.
actually super. Like South Park does a great job. It's just a great show, and they have a scene in there where they basically the cops get their funding back because they need them, right? And so they're driving down the streets. They've got bazookas and freaking tanks and everything, and they're like, the kids are out of school, and they're like, it's horrible, right? They just attack this kid and like kill him and stuff. It's awful. And Kenny, of course, dies. It's
Yeah,
a
of
good
course.
episode for sure.
Yeah, everyone keeps
Worth
telling me to
checking
watch
out.
it. It's definitely on my watch list because I think South Park is like one of the best shows there is.
Yeah.
The best episode to me is the school shooting one. You seen that one?
Um. Oh, where Butters has to patrol the hallways, as
Yeah.
like a
Yeah,
yeah.
like school shootings are just normal for everyone. Like some school shooters just kill like 5 people, and they're just like they just business as usual. The kids are just kind of walking around, like the dinner table that night. They're like, "Oh, how was school? Oh, gotta be on my test." And the mom is like, 5 people died today, And they're like, "Okay, yeah, that happened." Like,
Yeah, that's just normal now. It's just a
and then they're like,
thing.
"You're overreacting," Like, three more kids were killed today in school. Like, it's just hilarious.
Oh man. Yeah, they
But
do a great job. That is such a good show overall. And they hit both sides and they make good points and they do all kinds of good stuff in there. So a bit
comedy is
gruesome
half reason
sometimes.
truth, right? Like if something can be made to be funny, it's because it's half true. Like
Right.
we wouldn't we
There's
wouldn't care about school shootings if we didn't, them ignoring them if we didn't blatantly ignore them, right? Like
right.
so it's like whatever South Park pulls from, it's because there's truth to it, right? That's how they've been so successful. So I don't know, man. Like so let's go over let's just do a quick like rapid fire other topics. Supreme Court justice. Do you agree or disagree with the confirmation happening so soon?
Absolutely do it. Just go for it. You're
I
in there for
agree
four
constitutionally.
years.
I think there's nothing stopping them. I don't see why they wouldn't do it. If they didn't do
Yeah.
it, they'd be stupid. I
Yep.
think from a gentleman perspective, they shouldn't do it, but that's not how politics works.
Right. Democrats would do the same thing.
They would do
There's
the
no
exact
way they
same thing.
wouldn't.
Yep. And so, like, I can't be mad at Republicans for doing that. Okay, what about court stacking? Do you feel that's appropriate?
Whole no, don't pack the court. It's going to be bad on either side eventually. It's going to set a bad precedent, and then everyone's going to just abuse the system.
I feel like the same answer for question one. I think if they win the House, the Senate, and the White House, the people have clearly given them the power to do it, and they can do it, and it's constitutional. Do I think it's
Right.
right? Not really. And from a gentleman perspective, I think it's rushed. I think we should eventually add more justices, eventually. But I don't think.
You do?
Yep. I think
Why
we should
why add more justices? I'm curious about that.
We're one of the few that have so few justices. We're one of the few countries, right? And then you also have lifetime appointments, and so you get these like you only need 5 people, right? To
Right.
for like 10, 15 years to
Five
completely
people
alter the
have
chance of
complete
history.
control over the interpretation of our laws.
That's exactly it, right? And that's a problem, and that goes on for like 15 years because they don't, they only die every 15 years or whatever, like. And so I would be my perfect Supreme Court would be like 19 justices with 18-year term limits.
Honestly, I'm 100% on board with that. That sounds good. As long as we can find a way to do it where it's not like just throw 20 Democrats on there
Yeah, add
because you
10
opened
more.
it up. Right.
Just add 10 more in one go. Like I said, I'm not for that per se, but I can't.
Right.
How can I complain when it's clearly in the rules? They can do it. The people vote them.
Maybe.
They voted for it. They can do it. Like how can I?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no,
can't
I
complain.
mean, definitely if they do it, I'm not gonna, not gonna be like, end of the world.
I think every
I
president should pick a Supreme Court justice during one of his terms.
right.
know,
Oh no,
Justice
two. It
Alito.
has to be two, so we still have an odd number,
Or
right? For
yeah.
or does the
yeah.
vice president tie break? We could do vice president tie breaks on the years that. So for each term, until for like the next 10 elections, each new person appoints one person, and then in the years where we have like 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18 justices, if there's a tie in the Supreme Court, we have some kind of tiebreaker.
Something to that extent. Yeah, you get the point.
Right.
That
Yeah,
that
I
it
like
would
that
rotate.
idea
The
100%.
court would rotate. Also, I don't know if like the interpretations of like Justice Scalia are valid today. Maybe they are. Okay, I'm sure my lawyer friends are like looking at me like, you disgusting piece of shit. I don't know. I don't know. All I know is like when you get up in age, I know a lot of people that just don't have the ability to mold their mind around new concepts. And
Right.
maybe that's the idea of the Constitution, is that it's an old document. It doesn't need to be molded around. But like,
Well, doesn't it though? In some ways,
they're literally
they
called
made those
amendments.
rules, huh?
They're literally called amendments. You can amend them.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
changeable. This,
Right.
this this idea to me, this idea that we can't change the Constitution is ridiculous. We've done
Yeah,
it
I
like
think they put
26
the provision
times.
to change it in with the foresight that they may not force. The foresight that they couldn't foresee everything is what they had. They had the foresight to say, we aren't going to know what's going to happen 100, 200, 300 years from now. So let's put the ability to change things into the Constitution. And then some people are like, that's our rights. You got to, there's certain rights that I do think we shouldn't ever change, like free speech. I'm big on free speech. But a lot of
Well,
the
we've
other
already
ones,
changed
like,
it, right? We've already changed free speech, right? Like, you can't just go and say, "I will kill you online." You'll get arrested immediately.
right, yeah.
So
No,
I mean, like,
right, we changed it to no threats or direct threats and stuff like that.
and so
Yeah.
what if at some point, I don't know, I thought super slippery slope. I won't go on that pot, but like gun rights, right? Like, it's an amendment. Like, my guns, I love guns. I own a gun. I love guns. I'm a gun guy. I want to join the army. I love guns. The idea that you can't change the Second Amendment to me is just silly. It's a Second
Yeah.
Amendment.
Yeah, I think that
It's a
as
weird word for
guns
that.
have gotten more advanced, the need to have some more restrictions. Like when they first put that in, it was pretty hard to kill somebody. Like you'd have to be in a bar and they'd be like, "Hey, I fucked your wife," and then you'd have to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you," and then you'd have to like
Pull out a
load it
giant
up
musket.
and
Yeah.
you're not so bad, like you have
Come
time to
back with
think
a
about
long
it.
barrel gun, shoot the one
Right.
guy, and then the whole bar jumps you.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
So it's a totally different thing than being able to mow down in Walmart. I mean,
do you know how
or
Alexander
a
Hamilton
movie
died?
theater.
He died in a duel. I
Yeah.
guess he like turned around, shot his pistol, and he missed, and then the guy shot him. Right?
Yeah.
That might not be completely accurate, but the moral story is like he had like one shot, not that far away, and he missed.
Right.
Like this is
Yeah.
what
And
guns
they could
were.
have both missed and been like, let's not do that again.
Yeah,
You
we're done
know?
with this. That was a close call. Let's just call it a day. And so,
Right.
like, this idea that like we can't change the gun laws to me is preposterous. Not that we should. I'm
Yeah.
not saying we should. That's a different argument than we won't. But like,
I don't want people not to be able to hunt. I think hunting's a completely legitimate human process. So,
I just ask my Second Amendment friends: don't die on that hill. Don't die on the hill that you can't change the gun rights, because you absolutely can. We've already done
Yeah.
it. We've already done it, and you can do it again. It's definitely possible, right? Interpretations of the courts have already changed it without it being modified. You can literally put amendments into the Constitution. Like, don't think you can't do that.
that's why it's called an amendment.
It's wild to me. Like, if you truly wanted to follow the words of the forefathers, you would allow the Constitution to be changed as we go.
Yeah.
You wouldn't just die to this piece of paper saying it says here taxes must not exceed or fees must not exceed $20 for court fees. Like, what kind of like what you that's the Fifth or Sixth Amendment, Seventh Amendment, one of those weird Bill of Rights amendments where fees
Yeah.
can't exceed $20. What does that even mean?
Right.
$20 now. What
It's a totally different thing. Yeah.
$20 then was probably like what, $2,000 or something. Like,
Oh, probably. Yeah. A ton of money.
it's literally chump change now. It's
Yeah.
2 hours of work at near minimum wage. So I don't know, man. Like, ridiculous.
What other things? What other things?
Hot topics. Let's see. 2020 climate change. Do you think? I know he talked about fracking. He talked about.
Uh-huh.
I know we have the thorium nuclear debate. Do you think that? We can do anything about that?
I mean, I think we should. I think yes, yes. Simple answer, yes. Joe Biden on climate, way better than Trump. Trump uses the argument of jobs, right?
That's
So,
a bullshit argument.
but here's the opposite argument of that. You remember like when I don't know, you probably heard the story in school of like the man who thought his horse was going to beat a car or a train. It was a train, and then the train obviously kicked the crap out of the horse. We built railroads all across the country, and then we did the same thing with roads when cars came along. And guess what? A lot of those roads were built by people working for the government. It provided a ton of jobs. And now if you're going to set up all these like charging stations along the highways to charge electric cars, that creates jobs too. You might lose some jobs in the oil industry, but you're actually creating jobs doing something that will actually benefit our planet I think eventually we need like terraforming and stuff like that, but that's way out there,
Yeah,
and
you're talking
probably
about like
not in my
space age
lifetime.
here. People
Right,
definitely use the jobs thing way too much. The jobs is such a generic word. What are the jobs? Are they high paying jobs? Are they quality jobs? Are they safe jobs? Are they necessary jobs? Are they long term jobs? Are they wage?
right.
Or are they salary? Is there advancement in those jobs? Like, there's so many different questions to ask. You can't just say, I'm Trump. I created 50,000 jobs. Like, who gives a shit? What does that mean? It means almost nothing.
Right.
And so
How do you feel about the troops coming home stuff? I like troops coming
the
home.
libertarian in me really says just leave the other countries alone. Stop funding Israel. Stop funding other countries as much. At least the majority of it, right? The nonsense of it. They can rest on their own laurels, and if they can't, they have no place being in the national power they're in. So yeah,
Right,
bring them home. Afghanistan doesn't if they fall into war, let countries that are like that are near them handle it. Have their policies kick in. There's no better way to incentivize the United Nations to increase their funding than to stop funding this endless war in the Middle East. They're gonna bump their defense spending up to 2% if you stop just babysitting the Middle East, right? Like,
right,
give them an incentive to do that and to pitch in. We just have no place doing that. Like, I don't know why we need that. Like, if you truly
right.
respected the troops, in my opinion, you'd bring the troops home. I don't really know. Maybe there are troops I definitely know that like war. Like, it takes a
That
special
want
kind of
to,
person to
yeah,
enlist in the first place. But like like war, there's no winners in war. Like, war is not a good thing. We shouldn't be having wars. We should do our
right.
best to end as many wars as possible.
Unless there's like a real, but we don't have that. That's the problem. It's just an endless war. It's not like a war with a serious purpose to take out someone who's making concentration camps. That's not
Yeah, like if China was like bombing South Korea, like we would step in, like, no question
right,
about it. That's a war. This is not a war. This is a war on feelings, war on oil, whatever you want to call it. Like,
right.
it's not a war. So anyway, but it is a war in the sense that it's devastating, to a lot of
Yeah,
people, us and them. So
yeah,
yeah, the libertarian in me says bring it all back home, man. Bring most of it home. Do the things that countries want us to do. If Afghanistan invites us over, we can come over as a consultation role if necessary. And then if they get attacked in egregious ways, we can help out with a declaration of Congress.
right. And we
So,
can have like ambassadors and stuff like that.
yep.
Normalize relations,
The
generally speaking,
president
I
should
think.
have very little power in just saying, like, let's put troops. Like, it's crazy that we say, oh my God, Biden's going to bring the troops home, or he won't bring the troops home. Like, why does Biden have that say? Why doesn't Congress have that say? Why is Biden the one making that decision? Why isn't the Secretary of the Defense making that decision? I know the Commander in Chief
Right.
is the boss of him, but like, why are we letting that decision rest on the shoulders of the president? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I think we as a country we forget that that's what the president's like main power is the executive branch.
Being the Commander in Chief, right? I don't know, man. Like, what other topics are there that are hot last couple weeks? Fracking. What did they talk about in that? Healthcare. Healthcare. Do you support socialized medicine more so Obamacare? Where do you rest on that spectrum?
It's hard because I don't know exactly. I definitely don't think Obamacare's been that good, but I mean, I okay, like Canada does socialized medicine. Some people say it's bad, but I know people that are from Canada and they say no, it's fine and it's better. You can just go to a doctor, and I think we should be able to just go to a doctor when we need one. So
Let's
my heart
preface this.
says that's
Anyone who
just where
thinks
my
they
heart
know
lives.
healthcare, you're a fucking liar. Like, you're just not.
Right.
Unless you're like
You
Dr.
just
Fauci level, I don't really want to hear your opinion on healthcare as a fact. It's an opinion, and that's all it is. Like, same
right,
applies
and
to
I
me.
I
Applies to,
acknowledge that mine's an opinion for sure.
yep, applies to me as well. I
Yeah.
think that we can look at the examples of socialized medicine now and see that they're working, but they also have
Right.
a giant subsidy in the United States of America who subsidizes the cost of medicine for everyone else. If we weren't doing that, I don't know if we could have a program that exists like it does. Other countries could exist in the way they do.
Yeah, see, it's a hard one for me. I, in my heart, just think it's right that medicine is like a fire department or a police department. You know, you should have a doctor when you need help, just like you have a cop when you need help, and you don't have to be like, which police station do I call? Which one does my police insurance cover? I have a robber at
Right?
my house,
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
That's just, and I do, I mean, I think that when people have your lives in their hands, then they shouldn't be able to profit off of it. Like, because if they can profit off of it, then they jack the prices up on meds that can save your life to $8,000 a bottle, and then they basically say pay or die. And
Martin Shriek.
yeah, that's a good example. And he legally didn't get in any trouble for that, I don't think, did he? Like at the end of it, like it was a big deal, and then it just kind of went away because technically
it
wasn't
to jail
illegal.
For a bit for other reasons, but that wasn't one of the reasons.
Right, which is just crazy. You're basically, so I guess I support socialized medicine, but I know that I don't know how that actually works.
I would definitely support trying it. I would support the attempt of it. If it didn't work out, we could change it. Like I said, we should be able to change our laws. If it doesn't work out, we change it.
I think that's the biggest thing. Why can't we try things out? Why is it that everyone's like, oh, if we do that, it's forever? Obamacare is not even forever. Apparently, it might get repealed, right?
Yeah.
So,
and that's that. And
so we tried it.
Thing. As long as you replace it with something that's an attempt, try it out. Like I said, I know people's lives rest in the hands of these things. If you're a cancer patient right now and you rely on Obamacare, I have no issue with you fighting staunchly to keep Obamacare, hating Republicans. I get it, but at the same time.
Right.
There's a bigger picture than just an individual. You have to understand that like these policies can help or hurt a lot of people, and if we just keep with the ones that are clearly hurting a lot of people, we don't have a good system. So we have to try new things, like try something. It's not working, right? Any other quick subjects? I know we're almost at time here.
Yeah, I probably should get going anyway, huh?
All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you for being here, Hunter. Just me and you today. Good old fashioned, down to earth one. Didn't get any questions to answer, unfortunately, guys. I know it's a new back to the queue, but we're gonna start releasing videos, and we're also gonna start doing this a little more consistently with a little bit more substance, more control. It's gonna be better. The content's gonna be better. We're gonna get it figured out. We'll be better, I promise, guys. And this podcast is not owned by me. This is the Sunday service is the whole conglomerate. Courtney, Desmond, we have a new person I won't introduce yet until we get her on, and Hunter, right? So this will get better, I promise. So,
and obviously, if you guys are checking it out, make sure comments, likes, anything on that, if it's on YouTube or any of that, really help out a lot.
Where can they find you, Hunter?
Huh?
Where can they find you?
Oh, for my stuff? Actually, we just started. My son and I. If you guys like games, that's my thing right now. Is we started Frozen Fire Gaming, and I'll be a hero to my son if we get like 3 likes on any video. So if anyone's listening, go to Frozen Fire Gaming. Yeah,
YouTube.
And it's so Frozen Fire, one word,
YouTube.
space gaming, and then you'll see like Kingdom Hearts and stuff like that.
I got you pulled up on the lead live here. Frozen Fire Gaming, guys. Here it is. Got 18 subscribers.
18? No, that's not me.
That's not you. Okay, let's go back here.
No, it's gonna be down the list. It's it's a flame that is orange into blue.
Boom, got you right here. You have one subscriber.
One subscriber. His name's Hunter Coleman.
Because I just subscribed.
Hell yeah.
So,
Hell yeah.
Guys, here's the Frozen Fire Gaming channel. Again, it is a kid-friendly gaming channel. Don't expect to see high-level PvP and stuff on there. So it is what it is. Let your kids know about it. Let them watch it while they're doing other stuff. So anyway, we're gonna head out. Thank you guys for the video. We will see you guys in the next one. Anyone has any video ideas, send them over to myself or Hunter. We'll get you in. Okay. All right. Bye.
Awesome. That was good. I liked that. That was good. Just you and me bouncing back and forth.